It's a common sense recap of the big stories. It's Katz and Cosby on 77 WABC.
Israel on the throes of beginning their ground invasion into Lebanon. And as this is coming, President Biden was asked about it, and he said he's not happy, and he says there should be a ceasefire now. Not supporting Israel right now in this critical time. Joining us now is Congressman Rich McCormick, Republican from the great state of Georgia. Congressman, really great to have you here on the show. And your reaction to this Biden just so waffly on Israel. Look at what happened. We were just talking about what's happened. Israel in the last 6 weeks has taken out more terrorists it seems like than America has in 20 years.
Are you saying that Israel is terrorizing the terrorists?
That's what Biden sure feels like.
Just checking it out.
Yeah, exactly. Your thoughts, Congressman?
Yeah, so Biden's administration has been impossible to deal with when it comes to foreign discipline at all. I mean, I'm a guy who's been to about 50 different countries. I've been in the military for over 20 years. If you look at his weakness, it's led to war, literally war. It doesn't matter if you talk about Ukraine, Israel, what could potentially happen in Taiwan. People pay attention when you're all about appeasement, when you're actually taking away sanctions, when you're giving terrorist nations like Iran money. That's how they funded Hezbollah. That's how they funded Hamas and the Houthis. They've been encouraged and emboldened to actually encourage the people they give weapons to fire on American troops. We lost 3 Georgians in the National Guard who were hit by a drone created in Iran, supported by Iran. We watched what happened in Israel happen because of weak leadership from Biden. They want a super peace at the worst possible time. These guys have encouraged terrorism all over the world. They've supplied our enemies all over the world. And to tell Israel to cease fire at a critical juncture when they're actually doing something with intelligence, something we don't do, by the way. We have better intel than Israel. We just never act on it. That's the difference. They actually make decisive actions. That's why they were successful historically in places like Entebbe, Uganda. They take huge risk doing this, but they actually defeat the enemies for us many times. Are we waiting for Iran to become a nuclear power before we do something? Why not level those places that produce those weapons and be used against us and our allies? Why not sink their Navy every time we're fired on, when our naval vessels are fired on by their weapons? Our weakness has led to war, quite frankly.
And Congressman, this is Peter Navarro.
Hey, Congressman. I want to ask you if you remember the Vietnam War when they had the tunnels of Cu Chi and how that led to basically the downfall. We've got a similar situation going on 26 square miles, I think, in Gaza, but they have 1,000 miles of tunnels or so. You cannot get out of Gaza until you destroy all those tunnels. Are you on that same page? Are you aware of just how dangerous those tunnels are, which were used for the October 7th, by the way, terrorism?
Yeah, absolutely. As a matter of fact, if you study warfare and you study why America's lost in Vietnam, why we lost in Afghanistan, why we did very poorly in Iraq until we did surge ops, anytime you put the gloves on and try to teach limited warfare, where you have to say the most powerful nation in the world has to play by some rules that nobody else plays by. That's a recipe for failure. It's a way to draw out a war, lose popular support, lose a war against third-rate armies and terrorists. When you pretend like you're going to do something better by taking it easy on these guys, by suing for peace, as if that's ever worked. It's never worked. It always sets them up for better success against us when you allow them to breathe, when you take your foot off their neck and say, oh, yeah, I understand innocent people might die, so therefore we're not going to do anything. We forget that when we were successful, when we were in World War II, 100,000 people, innocent people died in one night. I hate that. But that's war. War is a horrible thing. You're never going to have a clean war. I'm sorry, it doesn't exist. Name me one war where innocent people didn't die. And if you want to continue to be soft on terror, if you want to continue to allow them to use their strengths against us and make them our weaknesses, we are going to lose this war against terror, and it's going to cost a lot more people their lives. It's going to cause a lot more terrorism in the United States, where we had 2 million people come across the border in the last 3.5 years that we don't even know who they are. We know we've caught a record number of terrorists, but we have 2 million people we haven't even identified. I guarantee you there's a whole bunch of bad guys that came across the southern border that mean to do us harm, and our weakness is going to come back on us and haunt us into the years to come.
Absolutely. Congressman, thank you very much. Congressman Rich McCormick from Georgia, thank you. And we're also keeping everybody in Georgia in our thoughts and prayers, too, with all the damage from the storm there, too. Great to have you. You got to come back on again soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Semper Fi.
Thank you. Semper Fi. Thank you for your service, sir. Thank you very, very much.